Welcome to Pour the Wine. It's Rom-Com Time, where we'll sip some wine and review all things rom-com on the Hallmark Channel. I'm Amy.
And I'm Gary.
It's time to pour the wine, y'all.
Pour the
See what I did there?
wine, y'all. I see what you did
Since
there.
we're going to be reviewing Chicken Sisters today, and every episode has y'all at the end.
Yes.
In the title.
Cute. That was cute. So
What
today,
are we pouring?
We have the Dreaming Tree
Dreaming Tree.
at Cabs Ave. And this is a 2023 from California.
Yep. And you know who created Dreaming Tree? Dave Matthews.
Really?
In collaboration with a different winemaker, or with a winemaker, Grayson Stewart,
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Dave Matthews in the wine business.
Oh, my goodness. Who doesn't like Dave Matthews?
I'm a little bit sad that we're more than halfway done.
I know. Can you believe it?
I know. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we are getting a season 2 of
That's
the Chicken
awesome.
Sisters, and they've already started filming.
Yep.
And I had to look up, you know where they film?
No, I do not.
They film in British Columbia.
Wow.
Wow. Specifically.
There's a shocker.
Greater Vancouver and Langley.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. Have you ever been to Vancouver?
No, I have not.
Beautiful. We should go.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, we need to go to Vancouver. But I read that they, do their best to make it look like a small town in Kansas City.
Yeah, well,
They do a pretty good job. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
would have
do.
known. I also read that David James Elliott is joining the cast for
Okay.
season 2. Do you know who that is?
I do not. Tell me.
He was on the TV series Jag.
Jag. I remember the series, but I don't remember the actors.
You don't remember that? I'll have to show you a picture.
Okay, show
After
me
the
a
pod,
picture.
I'll
I
show
bet
you
you
a picture.
I'll recognize them.
You will recognize him. I never watched Jag, actually, but it was a hugely popular show. I believe it was on CBS, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there you go.
All
They're
right.
filming.
Okay. Well,
You ready to get rolling?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So we love it if you would click that follow button on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, you can leave us a review. Hopefully it's a positive review.
Hopefully it is. We
Yes.
hope. Fingers crossed.
You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X, and Threads.
Threads.
To say the least. Woo, that's a lot. That's
is
a
a lot.
lot
That
of
is a
social
lot.
media going on there.
What episode are we on today?
Well, today we're reviewing the 5th episode of season 1 of the Chicken Sisters, not the Hydrangeas, y'all, which aired on Sunday, April 27, 2025. If you missed it, you can catch it in all episodes on Hallmark Plus.
Word.
I said Hallmark right.
You did. Usually you throw an extra R in there, Hallmark.
I don't know why. But I do. So here, let me pass you
Pass
your
me my
wine before
wine.
we.
He always hoards the wine. He pours it
know.
and keeps it by him.
Well, I try. But hey, who
Yes.
are we adding to the cast list today?
So what we usually do is we listed most of the actors and actresses in the first few episodes. And then moving forward, we add, if there are new actors or actresses, we try to talk about them and add them to the running list that
Correct.
we have. But today we don't need to add anyone. I believe we added young May and young Amanda previously.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check that. If we didn't, we'll do it on the next episode.
Yes.
We did see more of Brewster and the pastor this episode, but we also mentioned them previously. So if you'd like to listen to the cast listing up to
Yes.
date to episode 5, check out the first part of our reviews of episodes 1 through 4.
Yes.
And you
very
will
good.
hear everybody, or mostly everybody.
Yeah. Well,
I don't like to say everybody and then somebody come and go, oh, you didn't mention, but we're trying.
Hey, we try.
We're trying.
We're trying. So just
Yeah.
hang in there.
Yep. So we're good with actors and actresses for this
All
episode.
right. So you want a little Hallmark trivia?
Oh, sure. Something else I won't know.
So excited.
Something else I won't know. Lay it on me. What do you got?
All right.
What do you got?
So in what year did Hallmark drama?
Oh, you're asking me the year this time because last
Yes.
time you just said it. You
I
didn't
know.
give me a
I kind of
chance.
ruined
Okay.
the trivia, didn't
No,
I?
you didn't. Go ahead. All right.
Anyways,
So in what year?
What year did Hallmark drama become Hallmark Family?
2007,
No, later.
2017,
Way later. Way later.
2022.
Keep going.
I have no idea. 24?
Yes, 2024.
What? So-
Hallmark drama became Hallmark, Family.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There you have it, people.
I didn't think that would be that recent, but obviously we have no idea.
No.
I have no idea.
I just looked these up. I just thought they'd be kind of cool to
There
do
you go.
before we dive into this. So, speaking of diving in, it's time to drop the synopsis.
Let's drop the synopsis for episode 5. Not the hydrangeas, y'all.
Yes.
Season 1, right?
Yep.
Amanda and May reconnect despite participating in a kitchen clash competition. However, Amanda feels drawn back to Franny's and Frank Jr., creating a conflict between her personal ties and professional ambitions.
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes I think that the descriptions of the episodes aren't totally accurate.
Right.
I felt that way a couple times,
Yeah.
but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So, what did you think?
What did I think? Well, during this episode, let's see. We learned a lot about May and Amanda's relationship.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, there were some interesting tidbits, which we'll go into more detail in a little bit. So I really, this is my favorite episode to date.
You know what?
The
it's
humor,
kind of mine too.
The drama, the emotion, it had it all. I mean, we literally laughed out loud during this episode, and there were lots of one-liners again. So you get a glimpse into Amanda and May and their sort of preconceived notions about one another.
Yeah.
And then they have some, some deep discussions, some lighter discussions, some fun. So it was just a really great episode for their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What else did we have? We had Gus and Nancy, of course.
Yes.
We had a couple great scenes with the two of them and their rivalry, I guess. So, and I think we're going to find out more. Amanda and Frank Jr.'s relationship was highlighted. I don't know how they squeeze all of this in 40 minutes. It's an hour episode, really but with without the commercials, it's like 40, 45 minutes. So, and then we see more of the pastor and little crushes on the pastor, the inappropriate things that are said in church about the pastor, which are kind of funny.
Yes.
So we get more of a glimpse of him. Just overall, I thought it was just a great episode now that we're on the downward slope of the season.
Yes.
What about you? What do you think?
I too feel like these characters had like a eureka moment with each other. Yeah. Right? Like you said, Amanda and May. You had Sabrina and her daughter. You had I didn't even mention Sabrina. Right. Yes, we saw they weren't in it. They were in it. They were sprinkled throughout the episode, but you got a lot. Yes, you did
from their appearances. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then you had, let's just say, Patrick and May. They kind of
and May, right. That was like a tiny.
Yeah, that was tiny. Yeah. You had Nancy and Gus, and then you had Frankie, and then you had her dad and her mom. Right. Frankie
and her dad, Frank Jr. and Amanda.
And Amanda.
Right.
And I just thought the way the writer just wove all that together was brilliant.
Yes. It was a great episode. Where do you want to start first? Which relationship should we dive into first?
Let's do Amanda and May because I thought it was really, really fun to watch from the beginning when the narrator was talking about how they were young and how as they were growing up, they started noticing things, and they were telling the story.
Noticing things about?
Like what people were saying in the town.
Right, because they were Mimi's girls.
And then how later on it actually came back around, how it brought them together as sisters, and how you would think sisters would be, But let's start with them.
We'll start with May and Amanda. Yeah. I agree with you. I think we just learned a lot about how May protected Amanda and really looked over her and shielded her from things that were really going on when they were younger. And we kind of touched on that in the last episode. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting. So they end up staying together in the same room in the inn. It's not a hotel, right? It's like an inn or a bed and breakfast or whatever. Yeah. So they're staying at the inn and in the same room, and they're kind of a little bit combative at first, but Amanda's more combative than May. May is kind of really appreciating that she's staying with her and kind of wants it, and doesn't realize that Amanda sort of harbors all this not animosity, but maybe a little bit of animosity against May, or not animosity, but she views May as perfect. And it was so interesting to me for their perceptions of each other to be off, totally off.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, Amanda thinks that May is perfect and everything in her life is perfect. And, you know that May lost her show. May is imperfect. May has down moments.
Right.
Her relationship with her fiance isn't going the way that Amanda thinks.
Right.
She doesn't know that that he's not speaking to her now.
Right.
And, and I think that May is constantly trying to build up Amanda, and she's not doing it correctly by bashing her current husband, but she's trying to, May wants her to leave, and Amanda can't understand why May left. So I left the town. Right. So I just thought it was, I thought it was great. You know, I mean,
I like how they were playful with each other. Once they got comfortable being around each other again.
Yes.
The pillow fighting. I liked how she was like, "Ooh, you got a crush." That whole scene right there.
Yes,
where she was
it was very
about,
sisterly.
Ooh, you like a chicken drawing.
Yeah, you kind of see their
Sergio.
closeness. Yes,
Sergio. So I thought that was cute and interesting that they put that in there. And then they talked about the first kiss with Sergio, and the girly thing, like, "Oh, it was." I'm not going to tell you how it was. And then May turns around and she counts down her fingers and she's like, "Okay, I'll tell you. It was great."
That's really good. And then May jumps up and down and she screams, even though that's inappropriate because Amanda's married. But, but it was just a good sisterly.
Yeah, because she was like, "It's never going to happen again." And then May was like, "Do it again.
Do it again." Yeah, it was really cute. So they had this like push and pull almost throughout the whole episode.
Yes, and it was fun to watch. Yeah. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and then Amanda, it's interesting too because Amanda is kind of like, "I don't even know why I did that," and and May is like, "Well, maybe you're unhappy. Maybe Frank Jr. pushed you away.
Yeah.
Maybe you wanted out,
right?
And that was your way of acting out.
Exactly.
Not condoning it, but."
Yeah.
So I thought that was, and then the pillow sack race.
That was
really cute.
Especially when Sabrina walks up and kind of looks at both of them standing there with pillowcases. And then she's almost like, "You do you." And then as she's walking up the stairs, she goes, what does she say? Something about The Shining.
Oh, she says this place is like The Shining or something. Yeah. It was something like that. That's not the exact quote, but yeah.
If you ever watch The Shining, it kind of does bring
with the two girls in the hallway kind of thing.
Red rum. Crazy.
Yeah. So I thought it was just, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great, and I think that you see where May is almost too comfortable in sort of bashing Frank Jr. because it's still Amanda's husband. And even though Amanda's mad at him, it's still her husband and, and the father of her child. So it's just an interesting dialogue that they had. So,
yeah. So what'd you think about the dynamic between Sabrina and her daughter?
Oh, you want to? So first of all, can we just talk about how Sabrina, she gets drunk at the drop?
Yes.
In the last episode, right? So she's hungover in the morning and she is looking rough, right? Like rough in the morning. She doesn't want the lights on. She's just, So it's pretty interesting. And then of course her daughter, Lindsay, is kind of like, "Oh, you're drunk, huh? I thought we weren't supposed to get drunk." Kind of like, do as hypocrite. I say, not as I do. Yeah, she does call her a hypocrite. So it's kind of interesting. And so for most of the episode, Sabrina does not look good. She looks hungover, right? She's just kind of floating around. So, and then, her daughter, Lindsay, and this will kind of be a sidebar since you brought them up. When Lindsay is talking to Frankie, she's basically glorifying the divorce of her parents. Like, "Oh, it's great." And there are some good, she has two bedrooms. Yep. She has two Christmases. She has two birthdays. Yep. So, it's the best thing that ever happened to her family. And then Sabrina in the background is sort of, upset that her ex-husband is getting remarried and he's marrying someone half his age. Yep. And, she's beautiful and, she's like 12, not really 12, but she's, she's very young and she just feels like her daughter is going to be enamored by all of that.
Because he has
the little
money.
Ping and he has all the money and they travel and all that. And then you find out that Lindsay's waiting for a phone call or a Zoom, right, from her dad, and it never happens.
Right.
And then you see her break down over the divorce, over the fact she doesn't see her dad that much. And she leans on her mom more, even though they kind of have a little bit of a combative relationship.
Yeah.
And to Sabrina's credit, she's not happy her daughter is upset, that her ex-husband treated her this way. She comforts her. And so I thought it was a really, really good insight. And I like that Sabrina said, don't settle for stingy love.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. You deserve big love you don't have to ask for. And I thought that was so good and so profound. And I'm like,
they have a lot of that in the episodes, a lot of good,
advice.
Yes. Thank you.
Life lessons.
But I also like the fact that, she didn't bash her dad.
Right, right. She
dad.
Did not. Sabrina didn't write her ex-husband.
She just said,
I'm sorry you're upset.
Right. And you've always said, don't ever bash the other person. You never know. They could reconcile and all this other stuff. So just be graceful and just, tell the people, it's going to be all right. Right.
Well, I say that more in reference to, and you just learn this through life. If you have friends that are a couple and, your one girlfriend tells you, hey, we might be getting a divorce. And then you're like, oh yeah, he's a jerk, or whatever, but they might stay together. And now your friend knows that you've called him a jerk. I just feel like it's a no-win for friends, until they're actually divorced maybe, but you can be in a situation where people get back together. You think it's over and it's not. It's kind of like the May Amanda thing. May thinks that Amanda, and I guess we sort of forgot to mention that at the beginning of the episode, Amanda has left her house for a night or two because she finds out Frank Jr. had the vasectomy and he didn't tell her, and that was the final straw. Of course, that's not the only straw.
Right.
There's other things, but that's sort of the final straw for her in terms of what she's going to put up with.
Right.
And so she leaves. It's not permanent, but she does leave the house. And then, did you have anything else about Sabrina and Lindsay?
Well, just to jump off of what you were saying, when she left the house, the last episode ended with Amanda knocking on someone's door.
Yes, and we
were all
we didn't know who it was going to be.
I would have never guessed it was Shauna.
I never either.
I never guessed it would have been her.
Right. That Shauna was not on my radar.
No.
She should have been, but she was not on my radar. And she was so funny.
But wasn't that a fun scene?
Yes.
She is the comic relief, and I'm telling you, she is
you find out Shauna has another house guest that's a paying house guest, and Amanda's like, how many hustles do you have? And she starts counting on her fingers like, well, I've got 1, 2, 3. It's so funny.
Yes.
She's the comedic relief. I love her character. I love her character.
And how she was telling Amanda, oh, it's going to be all right. I love you. But you got to get up and get out.
You got to go.
Because I got an image I have to
That's
uphold.
why Amanda leaves.
Yes.
Right.
So
and we
funny.
didn't really talk about Amanda trying to go home.
Right.
To Gus.
Yep.
To Gus's house, and Gus tells her no.
Yeah.
And she's
sad.
like, are you serious? Like, you're my mom. And she's like, no.
She's like, well, I'll just sleep in the car.
Yeah. So then she leaves, and then you find out later that it's because, and we've talked about this before, she's
a hoarder.
Gus is a hoarder.
Yeah.
And she literally doesn't have the room because
that
Amanda's old room
scene.
is filled with things.
Sad.
So there's not enough room for her to be in there. So, yeah.
But going back to Sabrina, that little sidebar
Sabrina
we had there.
Yeah, sorry.
What about when she was in the lounge laying in the chairs?
She had funny scenes too. Yes.
That was so funny.
With Brewster.
Brewster comes up and says, oh, you look dehydrated. You need some vinegar. What was it? Apple cider. And some vinegar. And what does she say?
She says, okay, thanks, Brewster. I usually keep those things in my purse, but oops, not today.
That was hilarious.
Perfect. It was so perfect. Yes.
Yes. I just loved it. And I think there's something going on there too. She's kind of liking him.
A little bit. Yeah. And then, I guess we'll get to the end of the episode, but you kind of find out that her daughter, Lindsay, sort of likes the town a little bit.
Yeah,
so that's going to be interesting to
see
what happens. Like I said, I haven't read the book. We didn't watch all the episodes when they dropped on Hallmark Plus in the fall of 2024. So I don't really know.
Yeah.
You
but
know,
it's fun.
does the
It's
competition
fun.
end? Do they stay? I'm kind of hoping her character stays,
Yeah.
but maybe she likes Brewster, or not Brewster, Brewster with a
Yes.
G, right? I think. So, yeah, that's going to be
So
interesting.
I can't wait to see what happens there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be,
I think it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting.
So what about with we're gonna save Gus and Nancy for last because
Okay.
they were really good. But
Okay. Then where did you want to?
let's talk about the scene with what's her name? Blah 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 blah. I'm drawing a blank now.
Amanda May.
Yeah. Let's do Nancy and the priest.
Oh, okay. The pastor.
The pastor.
Right,
yeah.
right. That's a brief scene.
Yeah, but it was kind of funny.
So Nancy goes to get guidance
Yes.
from the pastor because somebody ran over Gus's hydrangeas
I know.
and sprayed Franny's on the side of her
I mean, how
house.
childish is
Yeah.
that?
So somebody did that, and Nancy, doing the right thing, doesn't condone that and goes and tries to help her. And of course, Gus doesn't want any help because, you know, she doesn't talk about her feelings. She doesn't do, you know, she's like, no. So then Nancy goes to the pastor to get guidance.
Yeah.
And it's a brief conversation. She basically wants to know how to help somebody who doesn't want the help.
Right. Exactly.
Somebody who's stubborn about it. And I think he says something like, keep trying, and you just got to keep trying.
Yeah, your big heart. Keep trying.
But what's the nugget in that scene?
Well, there's a couple of things, really. Are you talking about the book?
Yes.
Yes. You bring that up because I don't know. I've never seen that book before, but you've heard of it.
I've heard of the author. I don't read her,
okay.
but he has the same Jodi Picoult. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
He's reading, because she thinks he's like reading the good word, the Bible. Right. And he goes, no, I'm just reading this. And it's the Jodi Picoult
book.
The Pact is what it's called. Right. So he's reading the same book that she was reading.
And Junior had in the
restaurant.
Yes.
Right.
When he was having his moment after he cleaned up by himself.
That was a different episode, though.
Yeah. But that is true. That book seems to be going from episode to episode.
Right.
But I liked it when Nancy was getting ready to leave from the pastor. She touched him on the arm, and she was like, "Ooh, your arms are so strong. You would pull a magnolia tree right out of the ground, roots and all." That was
she gets a little verklempt.
Yes, she is so funny with that. Oh my god!
Yeah, she is. She's pretty good at that.
I love her isms too. I mean,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there too.
Yeah, I know. Is she falling for the pastor?
Maybe.
We might have some new loves here coming up.
You said you wanted to save Gus and Nancy for last.
Yeah.
So what about Amanda and Frank Jr.?
Oh my goodness! I mean, he cannot get out of his way. I'm sorry. I'm
kind of thinking he's just a jerk.
Yeah, it's leading that way.
He's just a chauvinistic.
I know. When he comes to atone at the end to Amanda.
So basically, Frankie works with him or tries to tell her dad.
Yes, she's the adult.
She's the adult in this, and she's like, "Mom, what does Mom do for you?" And he's like, "She does my laundry. She helps you get things done."
Right,
you know, and she rephrases
it
and tries to coach him. Yeah, coach him is a good word.
Into figuring
out what to say, and
yes.
she has him practice and all of that. So Frankie is there when Frank Jr. talks to Amanda and tries to atone for not telling her about the vasectomy that he had.
And Frankie, she's so excited because at first Amanda's like, "No, that's not enough for me." And then he says, "I'm trying to atone. Mama wants me to atone to you. And do you want to really destroy this family?" And then they do these backflashes of them when Frankie was born and having these birthday parties and all that. And she just realizes, no, I don't want to, tear this family apart. So she says, "Okay, I'll come home." Well, that makes Frankie happy. But then...
But wait, don't go too far into that yet.
Okay.
Are you going to go to the scene at home?
No, I was going to say Junior then goes, okay, get your stuff. I'll wait right here.
Oh yeah. Instead of going and helping her
Right.
get her stuff.
So,
yes.
yeah.
He's right back to, well, that's what I was gonna dive a little deeper into that, where you can really see how selfish he is, because, and it's almost like narcissistic behavior too, because he apologizes and atones and he's really nice at first. And then when Amanda is kind of like, that's not enough.
Right.
I need more. And he's like, well, why isn't it enough? I apologized.
I know.
I atoned.
Yeah.
Like, you should be grateful.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
and
almost
then
like childlike.
Yeah. And then when you talked about Amanda then kind of running the memories through her head about how if she left him, she would lose Nancy, who's really been her mother figure when her mom wasn't.
Correct.
And so she's going to choose to go back because of Nancy, not because she wants to stay in the relationship with Frank Jr. Right. And so she's, again, doing what's right instead of what's right for her.
Yeah. And that was sad.
And that's sad. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it's hard, but if you're not happy in a relationship, it's worse. It's just bad. It's worse. We talked about this before, just, you don't give up right away. Right. I'm not saying leave at the first fight. And it's kind of like, and then when she goes to the room and she's talking to May, and May's like, what are you doing? Why are you going back? And can't understand it. And then I forget what Amanda says in that moment. Like,
Amanda pretty much says, just because you messed your relationship up doesn't mean I need to.
Which was mean. Right.
And it's like they fell right back into the
rivalry, the battle, the constant, but also, May says, marriage shouldn't be hard work. Right. Like, it shouldn't be hard. Yeah, it should be hard if your car breaks down and you have to go help,
and you're doing taxes.
It can be hard, but it shouldn't be hard all of the time. Right. And we feel that way too.
And that's a
there's
going to
be bumps in the road, but it shouldn't be hard all the time, and you shouldn't feel like you're settling or just drowning in your marriage. So I just thought that was, it was really well done. Yes. Really, really well done about, decisions that are hard and not easy. And
then when Amanda leaves, walks out of the room, and May follows behind her, Frankie's standing there and
is excited that her mom and dad are getting back together. She's standing next
to May, and May's like, I can't help her.
As kids do.
And said a couple other things, and Frankie was like, what? Like, she was like mad. Not mad, but she was disappointed.
Well, and she was surprised because she didn't understand why May was disappointed and not happy that her parents got back together. Right. But kids don't know, and they shouldn't. They don't know the whole history. Right. And I think May says something like, she's going to have to learn to help herself. I can't rescue her. Yeah. No, it wasn't, I can't do it anymore. It was like, I can't rescue her. She's going to have to rescue herself. Right. Right. Like, and May's coming to that realization too. And I think May didn't realize before they were staying in the same room that, because Amanda says, Frank Jr. got me out of the house. Right. You left. Right. And I was still there, and Frank Jr. is the one who got me out.
He's the one that got me out of the house. Yep. Yeah. Out of Mom's house.
I thought that was a powerful scene at the end.
Yep.
Just spoke a lot about relationships and whatnot. So
let's get into Gus and Nancy.
Gus and Nancy. This won't be too long. This is just a quick, they had we already mentioned that Nancy tries to help Gus clean up the yard. She wants to replant the hydrangeas, and Gus slams the door in her face essentially like 2 or 3 times. Yes. And what does Gus say? Like something about standing downwind behind an outhouse. Yeah. Like, I'd rather be standing downwind
in an outhouse breeze.
Which I thought was so funny. So if you've ever had to use an outhouse, have you?
No. Well, yes. But not once, just once.
No, my grandmother had an outhouse for years. Oh, I loved her. She lived on a farm, and I loved going to her house. I hated going in the outhouse. hated it, can still smell it to this day.
Oh, my
Can
goodness.
still see it to this day.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, you don't see anything, but I don't, until she got indoor plumbing, I have no idea. That was the best day of my life when she got indoor plumbing, when she got a toilet inside. But yeah, an outhouse. But anyway, so then Nancy leaves and we have the rest of the episode, and then Nancy goes back.
Right.
And she's just going to do it. She just goes out in the yard and starts
talking to the hydrangeas
and replanting hydrangeas, right?
And then what happens? She gets watered.
Gus comes out and waters Nancy with the hydrangeas. So it's a pretty funny scene. And but then Nancy unloads on Gus. She's using the hydrangeas as an example, but she's really talking about Amanda.
Yeah.
And how she feels like Gus has disregarded Amanda.
Like she did the flowers.
Thrown her away. Right. Doesn't want to fix it. But she's using the hydrangeas
as
and Gus is like, are we talking about Amanda? And Nancy's like, yes, no, yes. No. So, and then they start arguing more, right? And the water.
And they get wrapped up in the water hose.
Right.
And then little did they know they were being filmed by Sabrina.
They were being filmed by Sabrina.
Bruno.
Yep. I feel like that's a sidebar to the whole, like, what is the competition? I don't even know what the competition's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? She's just there filming and so
she's getting all the B-roll.
Yeah, all the B-roll for the stuff
first. So
Yep.
But then, so let's go back to when Amanda gets home and and Frankie and Junior are sitting on the couch and Amanda's in the kitchen making, I'm not sure if it's a cake or breakfast
She's
or whatever.
Something.
And Frank Jr., he's drinking a beer on his recliner and he's like, hey, don't forget to do my whites. And, you can see the look on Frankie's face. It dawned on her what her aunt was saying, Aunt May was saying.
Yes.
That she now realized she's not happy in this relationship and all he wants is her to do things for him.
Right. He doesn't want to do anything for himself.
And that was really sad. And you feel bad for her because, she's the child. And she's actually witnessing this.
But she realizes what her dad is actually like. It's still her dad, but and then she really sees how unhappy her mom really is because Amanda's kind of like, it's fine, I'll go do it with like a grin.
Yeah.
And
May just wants her to be the best her. So, an artist.
Right.
Because that's where her love is. But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen soon.
I know. I think there's more to the Frank Sr. and Gus story that we don't know.
Yes.
I think there's going to be something that comes out there and it's not exactly what Nancy thinks it is.
Right.
She thinks they had a dalliance, so to speak. But I'm wondering, I don't know. We'll find out. And then we didn't talk about the pie, Southern pie.
Oh, my goodness.
Cures everything, right?
Doesn't it?
Yeah. And they look good, too. I want one of those pies.
I like when they do the little baking scenes.
Well, do you have any more by the ways?
No, I don't. What about you?
No, I don't. Oh. I don't think so. I think we need to rank this episode based on corks. Out of 5 corks, how many corks would you give it?
I'm giving it a 5.
Oh, I already told you. It's my favorite episode. Favorite episode to date. We laughed out loud. It was emotional.
It was a roller coaster.
Episode 5 of season 1 is my favorite so far.
Yep.
So we'll see.
All right, then. That's a wrap.
Is that a wrap?
All right. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen so you don't miss one. Also, follow us on social media. If you really, really like the show and are listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, we would really appreciate your positive review.
We sure would.
Yes. And if you didn't really, really like the show, we'd still appreciate a positive review. All right?
Yes.
So.
Well, you could not like it a little bit.
Right.
And still give it a positive review, right? That's what you mean there.
Give us a 4.5 and just say, hey, you need to do this. But
join us next Tuesday when we review episode number 6, I Choose to Be Happy, Y'all, which will air on Sunday, May 4th. May the 4th be
May
with
the
you.
4th be.
I can't help it. 2020. That's May 4th of 2025 on the Hallmark channel. Be sure to also tune in on Wednesdays for our Hallmark movie reviews. Until then, fill up your glasses and push play. Thanks for listening. Cheers.